report. So let's understand what all can we do using the PROC report. It's one of the very powerful procedures like you saw in the PROC tabulate. Using PROC report, you can transform a data for which we have a sample over here. So this huge data, you can transform it in as simple summary as this and even more advanced than this, right? How can you achieve that? So let's have a quick look at its syntax. So it's a big syntax, but all the points which we are going to cover is listed here, right? So how you're going to start is you just write proc report, and in the data statement you're going to provide the input table name, and in the out statement you can put the output table name. That is not mandatory actually. If you want to produce the output in a separate table, then you can do that. Otherwise you can just omit this. I mean, you can just skip this out statement. Okay, now then comes column statement. What does this mean? So this means all the columns which you want to, like, let's say you have a table of 100 columns and let's say 1 million records, 1 million observation or rows, but out of those 100 you only want to include 3 columns. So you can list down all the columns over here. So this is why we say here we list all the columns which you want to use in your report. Then comes the define option, right? What we do exactly over here? So here we specify what sort of action we want to perform on each of the columns, right? Let's say whatever columns we have mentioned over here, if we want to perform some sort of action on those columns, for example finding the mean, sum, count, etc. So whatever action you want to perform, you can mention the column name over here and you can tell SAS that look, this is the action which I want to perform over here. Of course I'm going to cover that into this video in detail. Then it comes break statement. What it does, if you have worked in Excel and if you have created pivots, then you can easily understand that in pivot you might have experienced subtotal, right, which gives you a total by each segment. So here we use the break statement to separate one segment from another or summarize it by a segment, just like subtotal in pivot. This rebreak works like a grand total, as we have grand total in pivot. Similarly, it here PROC report provides us a RBREAK option or statement. So this is nothing but it's the overall summary at the bottom. So at the bottom you can have a overall total, right? And then you also get the compute option, compute statement, using which you can create some other variables, calculated variables over here. You can use this to create some calculated variable basis on certain condition, like if else, etc., or whatever you wish, right? You can use this over here. And then you can just put the run statement and this will be executed and it will give you the required output. Let's have a look at sample. For example, you have this table and you want to summarize it something like this. Though this is not a summary, it's just has an heading and some specific columns. But even if you want to do this, how can you do that? It's a simplest form of the PROC report syntax. So like I just explained to you, in PROC report you're going to provide the input table names, and with column statement you're going to put all those columns which you want to include in your summary. For example, here I just gave 3 columns, all right, and here you can just give the heading, the kind of heading you see over here, right? So the same kind of heading you can, let's see the example over here. So if you see in the heading we have just used columns I need, and then these are in place of all these columns, what we use is these 3 columns: origin, make, and type. Okay, so this is a lot of theory. Now let's jump to the SAS window and try it practically. Let me take you to the SAS window. All right, so here we are in the SAS window, and here we have a sample of cars data. The data which we are going to use is cars data, which is available in SAS help library. You can directly use it from there, and that's data is used here. You just see a sample of 10 records, right? So this is the data which we are going to use. So I will start with structuring the columns in our PROC report, and then gradually we will move to the statistical option, and then so on. We will see that, right? So let's start with PROC report. I'm gonna say, okay, please note this video could be a little longer, so please bear with this, and trust me, it's going to be really interesting. You're gonna enjoy this, and at the end I promise you're gonna hit the like button. Okay, please do that. Okay, now in the data statement I gonna do this SAS help dot cars. Okay, for simplicity I'm just going to use only 10 observation for now. When I jump to the statistical statements I will use the entire data frame. Okay, now in the column statement I gonna use only 3 variables. What all those 3 variables are, then those are origin, then what comes make, then type. Let's say 5 variables I want to use over here. Type, and then we're gonna use what else, let's say MSRP, and then we're gonna use invoice. Out of the cars use data I'm going to use these many columns. So if you select this, so out of that use table you have only 5 columns in your report, right? Now this doesn't look nice. What does, if you present this particular report to anyone, what is it that they are going to understand? What does this data about? So this data is for car production. How can you do that? So for that you're gonna just put a column. Okay, fine. Let me first explain you about how can you give the heading and all, right? So first let me cut this, and over here, so you just have to start a parenthesis, use a parenthesis. In the parenthesis put quotations, and in this quotation whatever heading you want to give to your report, just put it over here, like cars data. Okay, and then you put all the columns over here. Here we go. Do you see this? Cars data. Now let's say we want to segment, we want to categorize these 5 variables in 2 groups. For example, to all these 3 variables we want to say that dimension, and these 2 are measures. How can we do that? So for that, again, like I said, whatever variables you want to group, you can just group them in parenthesis operator. So for example, I want to group these three variables together, and then these 2 variables together, right? Let's see what happens. Nothing happened. Okay, because we are not giving any name. Now you're gonna give the heading over here for this thing. So to this I'm going to say dimensions, and to this I would say, oops, please bear with me, to this I'm going to say measures, and let's run this. Here we go. Now you see we have 2 categories. So similarly you can modify the column structure whatever the way you want, right? It's I would highly encourage you to just go ahead and try to manipulating this thing as per your uses. Now let's jump to the next statement, which is going to be define. I will start again another syntax. Okay, PROC report. All right, then data, and I'm going to say SAS help, and then I'm going to say cars, and then over here I will use runs, and then the columns which I'm going to use are these columns. All right, sorry, these are the columns which I'm going to use. Let's see this. Now you're gonna say what is the use of this particular thing. It doesn't, it simply gives you the data. What is the use of this? So hold on, I'm just going to tell you what is it going to use. So for that, like I explained you in the beginning, we can use the define statement. In the define statement I'm going to say origin. This is the particular variable. Like I said, in define statement we assign the work to each of the variables, right? So here we have the origin variable, and I want to tell SAS group the data basis on origin, right? So for that it's gonna group it. Let's see what happens exactly. Well, now you can see it is grouped basis on origin, but still it is not making much sense. So I'm going to group it basis on make and type as well. All right, let me just do that. So same statement you're gonna repeat again for each of the variable. So for make also I would say group, and for type as well I'm going to say what? Yeah, you got it right, just group it. Here we go. Now you can see that it has the grouping of each of the things, right? Like you can see for Asia there are these all are the makes, and these all are the types, and for that MSRP, sum of MSRP is this, and then invoice is this. Let me make it pretty simple, little simple. Okay, I'm just going to remove this make variable from here. I will only use origin and type. Okay, and for example, I'm just going to remove all these things. For example, I'll also remove. Now let's see what happens. Here you go. Now you can see that this has given the grouping. Now if you want to see the count of each of these type by origin, how can you do that? So there is another option which is called across, which you can specify in define statement. Let's see, across option, you can across, you can consider it as an action, right? So now if you see, it is giving you the count of each of the type for each of the origin, right? So if you see at this intersection, it says there are 25 SUVs built in Asia. Okay, so this is how this across function works. So whatever variable you specify, the values available in that particular variable are plotted as the column heading. So this is how it works over here. Now this was the default option. What if I want to use, okay, let me show you another example. So for example, here we have MSRP and invoice. For example, if we want to check the sum of MSRP for each of the type in each of the origin, right, and mean of each of the invoices in each of the type and for each of the origin, how can you do that? Okay, it sounds very confusing, right? Don't worry, I'm just going to explain you that. Okay, so here we are in this particular segment. Again, before I take you over here, right, before I explain you further, let me just tell you, give you a list of all those options which we can use with define. So with define statement, you can use all these actions, right? I would highly encourage you to pause the video, or after learning this video, you can just, after going through this video, you can just go ahead and try to use each of these actions in define statement. Now without wasting time, let's get back to the SAS. Over here, now we had this statement, we are going to use MSRP and invoice. All right, these two variables we are going to use over here. Let's see what happens. As of now, we are just going to see this. So like we use them as a normal variable, so those are plotted over here, and by default SAS performs the sum, or maybe you can say that it does the summation of numeric variables, right? So that's what it has done over here. But hold on, we don't want SAS to do this thing. Okay, what is it that we're gonna tell SAS to do is, we want SAS do what we want, right? Okay, it sounds confusing, please bear with me. Okay, sometime I crack the poor jokes, so please bear with me. So here I'm saying that I'm telling SAS you have to use this MSRP and invoice for each of the type by each of the origin. This is what I'm telling it. Okay, now let's see what SAS does. Over here you can see SAS did its default action, but this time it repeated that thing. It categorized some of MSRP and invoices by each of the type and for each of the origin. So this is the difference. Now hold on, I promised you that I'm going to show you how to give the specific action. So we're gonna just do that, define, and you use the numeric variables whatever you want to use. For example, MSRP, and we want to use this for sum, or maybe let's say we want to take count of non-missing values in particular this thing. Okay, so let's see this. Oops, please bear with me. What happened? It didn't work. Okay, no problem. Let's try another statistical option. I'll explain you in some time how does this count work. For example, I want to find a mean. Okay, now let's see if this changes. Here we go. Now you have the mean of MSRP. So this could be confusing, right? Because by default it gives you the sum, right? So it could be confusing. So how are you gonna fix that? So you can also give the name over here, right? So you can say average of MSRP, and now when you present this report to anyone, they will easily understand this average of MSRP. Same thing we're gonna do with invoice. For invoice, what is this statistical action you would like to perform? Let's take sum. Let's take sum, okay, and do this. Here we go. So if you see for MSRP, oops, here I just have to say invoice, okay, and here also I will use this thing. All right, now I'm just gonna run this. Here we go. Is it all right? So here, oops, sometime I turn out very bad. Okay, total, we're gonna say total. And now you just execute this. So now if you see, it says clearly average of this, etc. Now if this doesn't look good to you, you can change the width as well, right? How can you do that? Let's try this. Let's see if this work. Okay, let me just make it 10. Width is 10. No, it didn't work. Let me increase this. Let me try increasing this and make it 20. Still didn't work. Oh my god, how much value should I provide over here? Just give me a second. Let me try 40. If this doesn't work, I'll try again. Okay, it didn't work. Just give me a second and let me fix it for you. Alright, so looks like width doesn't have much impact over here, or possibly not sure if this is not very compatible with this version. So what you can do is you can try in your SAS and let me know in the comment if it worked for you or not, right? Anyway, in this is not looking too bad, we can just live with this, right? So let me just execute this once again and let's see if this, so it remains the same, okay? Alright. So this is how you can use the statistical options over here. Now if you see at this particular thing, okay, just skip me. Now it has segregation basis on, okay, let me group it. Let me include another variable over here which is make, okay, and let me group it. I'm just trying to expand it little more. Make, and then again group it. Okay, now let's see what happens. So you see over here it is for all of the makes and types are over here, and then origin is over here. So this is how you can expand it as much as you want and whatever the way you want, right? So this is how it works well. Now further it comes to, let's say it is a huge report, right? It's a very big report and it is not looking pretty well. Other than this, what I want to show you is, for example, if you see in this particular segment in Asia, you have all these cars. Other than this, let's say the number of cars which you see over here and the number of cars which you see in Europe are not same. The type of cars, I mean, so the make of cars are not same. So there could be a situation where you might wish to put all the make of cars in each of the origin. So in that case, what you're gonna do is you're gonna just use complete rows. Okay, now let me show what is the difference that it is going to make. Now if you see over here, so no matter whether these cars are these makes are available in ASIA or not, it will always produce them, right? It will always produce them, though it will have the missing value, but it will always produce them. Okay, so in my case I'm just going to remove this because it is making it quite hazy, so it's not looking good. So what I'll do is I'll just remove this, but I just wanted to show you that this is the option which is available and you can try that. Other than this, I want to just show the detail for two origins only. So what I'll do is I'll use where statement. You can also use the where statement, like I'm just going to show you over here. Uppercase origin in Asia and then Europe, and let's see if this works. What do you think? Yeah, it just worked, like you can see over here. So now you have the detail for only two origins, right? So this is making it smaller. Okay, now let's say you want to see the total for Asia and then total for Europe. How can you do that? For that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna use break statement. Break, and you want to see the total after each of the origin, right? Once origin ends, then over there you want to see the total. For example, here Asia ends, so over here you would like to see the total. So for that, what you're gonna do is break after origin, and over here you're just gonna say summarize. And now let's execute this. Bravo. Now if you see, for Asia you have the total over here, for Europe you have the total over here, correct? So this is how you can use the break statement as well. Now if you want to see the grand total at the end, then you can use RBREAK, and I want to use here. Okay, before I proceed further, if you are not interested in showing it at the end, you can also use before. And if you use this, when you use this, it's gonna produce the result something like this. If you see, so first it is telling you that for Asia and for hybrid, the average of MSRP is this and total of invoice is this, and now further it segregates that. So this is how you can also present. For what I like is I like to keep it at the end, right? So that's what I'm going to put it over here after. For and the same way you can use RBREAK option as well, right? So RBREAK after, and here you don't need to put the variable name because it is not concerned about the variable. It's gonna put the total at the end, right? And what you want is the kind of action you want, you just need to provide over here. Now if you see here, this is the total of Europe and this is the total of all origins, right? So this is how you can use break or RBREAK on whatever column you wish. If you want to get the if you want to break on make or type or whatever you want, you can do that. Other than that, if you want, you can just if you want to have the summary on two different pages, you can also use the page option, right? And if you run this, you're gonna have Asia on a separate page and Europe on a separate page. So this option is also available. You can do that also. You can try that yourself. Okay, for myself, I'm just going to keep it on the same. Other than this, what else we're gonna cover over here is compute option, right? Compute statement. So we use the compute statement to create a calculated variable in our report, even though that variable is not available in our input data set. So that's something which we're gonna use over here. So before that, let me just show you the out statement also, right? So the out statement, you can, whatever report you see over here, you can just output that into the external another SAS table, right? So let's see over here, the only difference which it makes is it doesn't gives the structure as we wish, right? So this is how it looks like. It doesn't look nice, right? So that's why we usually put it in we usually see it in result segment. Okay, so now what I wanted to show you is, for example, this is the result which you have, and now for example, if you want to have the difference between if you want to find the difference between average of MSRP and total invoice of MSRP. Okay, what is the difference between average and total invoice? For example, if you want, I'm not sure if that kind of statistic is going to make sense for you, but yes, if you want to just make a if you want to find a difference of that, you can do that also. Okay, so for example, for that thing, you're gonna create another variable which is called average. Sorry, let's say that difference. Okay, difference variable, and then over here we're gonna calculate that. Okay, let's start with compute statement. Compute, and over here you're gonna end compute. Sorry, end comp. I just do this so that I don't forget it. And over here, what is the variable that you're going to use over here? So the variable which I'm going to use over here, create over here, is difference. And what is this syntax you want to use? Difference equals to, let's see the variable name. This is the actual variable name. We are not going to go on that particular name which we see over here, though we have to find the difference between average of MSRP and total of invoice, right? But we want to here they are named originally like this. Okay, C3, C4, etc. Okay, so let me just say C3 underscore C3 minus C4. It's very hard, it becomes very hard sometime for me to type the things. Okay, please bear with me. All right, and over here in define, you're gonna say define which variable we are working on, difference variable. Okay, and what is the action that we want to perform? Computed. Okay, now let's run this. Let's see if this works. What do you think? Is it going to work? Let's try this. Oh, it just worked. Well, so here, like you can see here, we have the differences for that particular thing. Okay, now if you want me to find this difference for each of this type, just say that into the comment section, put that into the comment section. If I get 50 comments that yes, try to find the diff for each of the type, then I'm going to make another video for that particular thing. And not only that, if you want me to detail about each of these things, define statement, for example, define statement or the statistics which we have, so just put that into the comment section. Again, if I get 50 comments saying that please detail the define, please find these differences for each of the type, then I'm gonna make another video for that. And before I end this video, let me show you. So here these are all the define options which you can use. Other than that, these are all the statistical option which you can use. All the statistical option, these are grouped in like this: descriptive statistics. These all are this descriptive statistics which you can use in the define statement. These are the quantile statistics, and these are the hypothesis testing keywords which you can use in the define statement. And with this, I would like to end this particular video. It is going to complete 30 minutes, almost 30 minutes. Thank you very much for watching this video. Do let me know how did you like this video. Put that into the comment section. If you have any doubt, put that also into the comment section. Thank you very much for watching this video. Wish you very good luck.